Hi, welcome back to Burbex, Brin's Urban Exploration. Today we are going to explore this fantastic arts and crafts university. There are dogs everywhere, dogs barking at me. Wow, 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 wow. We're going to go and take a look around this place, and I'm going to give you a lot of information about China and China's cultural background. If you love great urban exploration videos, be sure to subscribe to Burbex, Brin's Urban Exploration, for great new urbex videos every week. Let's go! So I've seen this place a few times from the subway now. I've been itching to come and explore this place. 请讲普通话. That means please speak 普通话. That's probably opposed to 家电话. 家电话 sounds like a duck when they quack. Doesn't sound good at all. Sorry, Jade. This guy is called Zhou Jialun, or Jie Zhou, and he's probably the most famous of all the pop stars in China. He's getting a little bit older these days, but in these pictures you can see him when he was a little bit younger. This looks like it was a ballet dancing studio or a dance studio. It's nice in there. Do you want me to do some ballet dancing for you? No problem. Geez, another mattress? This must have been the kitchen. You can see all like the massive stoves here. There would have been massive woks on top of these for making lots of Chinese food. And you can still see there's a lot of the original ingredients left behind. This is Sichuan pepper, or ma la. That's a really popular ingredient here in China, and when you get it on your tongue kind of goes numb. Another name for it is prickly ash. Chinese people love it. These are like the little serving windows, and here it says company meal, and then underneath it you can see it says Qingjiang Putonghua, which again means please speak Chinese, please speak Mandarin. If you're familiar with Chinese, you might not recognize this character though. This is the formal version of the character 4, which means 4 in Chinese. There's two systems. There's the kind of simplified characters for numbers, and there's also the complex characters for numbers also. They mostly use those complex numbers in accounting, and they're also on banknotes in China. I think that's so that people can't cheat them so easily by changing the strokes of the characters. Makes it a little bit more complicated, a little bit more difficult to forge. But still, that's a pretty cheap lunch. Seems like they're having a lot of problems getting people to speak Chinese in this place though. You can see behind me one of the bikes from one of the bike sharing schemes that they've got here in Shanghai. And there are a lot of bike sharing schemes in China. One of the big problems is that people will often take these bikes and, strip them for parts. So you can see this one, it's had its chain taken off, its chain removed. I think that's actually really selfish behavior. The other thing that people will do is that they take them out and then they lock them up with their own chains or their own D-locks. It makes it really difficult to find a share bike sometimes. That really disappoints me because there's such an amazing scheme. Let's go over into this next building though. I think this one's going to be much more interesting. One of the things about exploring abandoned places here in China is that you often run into dogs, you know, like whole gangs of mutts. Chinese people tend to love really yappy dogs. And so these dogs, they make a lot of noise, but they'll rarely come in and bite you. You're so cute! You're so cute! Anyway, as Chinese people say, 狗狗是我们的最好的朋友. Dogs are our best friend. We're on the top floor of this building right now, and one of the really interesting things about Jiading is that it's still got such a countryside feel to it. Jiading didn't actually become a part of Shanghai until the 1950s. There's still a lot of people who don't really feel that Jiading is part of Shanghai. The culture is kind of different here, the people speak differently, and there's kind of a luohou feeling. Luohou means like backwards. So there's a big cultural difference when you come out here. And you can see that this building adjoins right on to the countryside, basically. I usually think of Jiading as being the countryside. So we were just talking about numbers. And in China, a lot of numbers correspond with characters. So for example, in the background behind me, you can see it says 520 or 520. 520 sounds like 我爱你, which is Chinese for I love you. And in China, actually on May 20th, if you like a girl, you probably send her 520 yuan to her WeChat, or maybe cash. Or if you're cheap, maybe like 5 yuan and 20 cents. Whoever said that Chinese people weren't romantic? There is so much junk in here, it's unbelievable. There's a big map of China. This is a pretty standard map of China, and one thing that you will notice about it is Taiwan is included within the borders. There it is, right down there. And you can see that the pink line is the demarcation line, so this map still considers Taiwan part of China. This seems to be the foundation stone of this building, and it says it was built in, and it says it was opened in June 1988. So this building's not actually super old, but by Chinese standards, it's still pretty old. One of the things that China's actually really good at, and I have to give praise to China for this, is that they are very liberal about contraceptives, right? It's very easy to get contraceptives in this country. At the same time, it's very easy to get abortions, which might be a little bit more controversial. I just found this packet of condoms. I think these are like government issued condoms. You can get these for free in a lot of places, or maybe just like for 1 yuan for a vending machine. On this packet of condoms, it actually says 国际免费提供, which means like government free condoms, optimum size 52 millimeters. 52 millimeters. No comment about that, sorry. We're going into the main building now. This is the largest of the buildings, and this is where I think we'll find the most dogs. This is called Maotai. Maotai is actually a place in Guizhou in the mountains where it's supposed to have very clean water. But Guizhou is very famous for this kind of baijiu, and old bottles of this are actually worth a lot of money in China. The funny thing is that mostly baijiu tastes like crap, and in Hong Kong they don't drink it, they just use it for cooking. That kind of tells you how toxic this stuff is, but Chinese people love to drink this, and when they drink it, they will turn red as a beetroot. Maybe if somebody wants to sponsor me on Patreon for a few bucks, then I will drink some baijiu and we'll see how red I go. Can't say fairer than that. This message up here says 请写贵汉字, which basically means please write standard characters. In Chinese you have traditional characters which they still use in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and here in the mainland they prefer to use simplified characters, but there's still kind of a little bit of a struggle to get countryside people to use those simplified characters. It sounds like they were trying to go through some kind of cultural change in this school as well. Maybe there was some difficulty in that. Let's go into this room and see what we can find. Well, mostly as an art school, this place doesn't seem particularly political, but I've just found this message on the board. I wrote in the yellow pinyin so that I could read it to you more easily. 寇天有理, 一国两制, 老天在看. It's kind of a political statement. It's basically saying those who have the weapons are the ones with the power. One country, two systems. Only God will know which system is correct. I'm not exactly sure what it means. If you can help me out, I'd love to know. Something that I often find in abandoned buildings is x-rays. That's because in China, you are responsible for keeping your own medical records. It's not like in England or America where the medical records are centralized. That means that people are taking their... I think there might be someone downstairs. That means that people are taking their medical records home with them. X-rays are a very common thing that you'll find in these buildings. Getting x-rays in China is actually quite expensive for a lot of people, and that's how a lot of the hospitals make money, is by taking unnecessary x-rays. And then afterwards people just kind of throw them away because they don't really know what they're looking at. These trunks are actually quite amazing. We've talked about them before in previous videos where I found them in hutongs. One of the most interesting things about these trunks is that in the past most Chinese families would have had them, but now they tend to get thrown away. Often you'll find them in rubbish tips or in these old buildings. Inside sometimes you'll find old clothes or old toys. The most interesting thing about them is that often they are lined with old newspapers. And old newspapers are always kind of destroyed in China because they're always rewriting the past. Let's take a look at these newspapers. These ones look like they come from 1980. There's something about Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping was the chairman of China after Chairman Mao died. Mao Zedong, that was Chairman Mao himself. Look at the date of this. That was the 25th of July, 1980. This is really interesting. I think I'm actually going to take this with me. There's a calendar from 1980. Let's see if we can find my birthday. Which one is May? January, February, March, April, May. So you can see, there's my birthday, May 5th, 1980. I am definitely taking this with me. That is an amazing find. One of the important things to remember is that I shouldn't take photos of these old newspapers and put them on the Chinese social media because they will instantly be rejected. China is going through this whole phase of rewriting its past right now, and they don't really want people to be in touch with that history. Even things like newspapers, for example, could be a threat to that. Let's keep exploring though. This is a really interesting building. Wow, these clothes were in the trunk and they are absolutely amazing. This would have been 1980s Chinese fashion. So we talked about toilets in China before. This is a squat toilet. When I first came to China, I wasn't very good at squatting and I would fall over, but now I've got strong leg muscles. And Chinese people tend to be very good at squatting. They also think to squat down to poop is healthier. It gets more of the poop out. These toilets are interesting because they're called trough toilets. And as you can see, there's no door. There's no sense of privacy in here. Basically, there's like a little gully, a little river that runs along underneath me, and the water would come from this direction and just kind of wash the poop and the pee away. When I first came to China, I would see these in a lot of places, and you don't see them so much anymore because I think China has gotten a little bit more precious about their pooping habits, but you can still find them in some places. Oh, there's still water in this one. I think I actually need to pee right now. Probably the sound of the water. I just found this box of red chalk, and an interesting thing in Chinese culture is that you should not write people's names in red. If you write people's names in red, it means that they are going to die. And this is because in history, when the emperor would write somebody's death warrant, he would write it in red ink. If you're a teacher, make sure that you don't write too much red on your students' homework as well, even if it's going to be shit. There's a massive bell on the wall up here. Let's see if we can get it to ring. It's amazing to think that that bell probably hasn't rung in 10 or 15 years, at least. Oh man, this room is super skanky. Look how green it is in here. Actually, I quite like that colour, it's quite beautiful. Finally, we found some art in an art school. Who would have expected it? Let's take a closer look. I believe what the artist is trying to convey to us is the sense of newness and oldness and desperation and finding your identity in modern Chinese society. Just going out onto the roof now. It should be pretty nice out here. This place is interesting because it's right on the border between the urban and the rural area of Jiading. Right behind me you can see the subway, and that's how I found out about this place. And if I just turn around very, very quickly, just over there in the distance, that's the countryside. It's such an interesting juxtaposition of places. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Very true. This room is amazing. It's filled with like old maps of China and Shanghai. I'm actually quite tempted to take a couple of these maps. You know, Shanghai has developed so quickly over the years that you probably wouldn't be able to recognize the map of it anymore. These are like important cultural relics that we need to take care of. Well, I'm going to get out of here now because the dogs around here are going absolutely mental. You are so cute. I guess they love me so much. Love you. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for great new videos from Burbex, Brin's Urban Exploration every week. Let's go.